I have a tank that I'm not very proud of.
Oh yeah, this looks much better.
And that is my problem child right here. Welcome back to my ecosystem garage. This is the Betta Botanicals YouTube channel. I just took Betta Botanicals full-time about 3 weeks ago, and the culmination of about 6 months up to that point, my mental health was not great. Like many of my friends in the aquarium hobby, the health of my ecosystems has been tied to my mental health. The tell, like many other aquarium hobbyists, is my problem child right here. The glass is thoroughly coated in algae. I'm not even sure that the plants inside of it are alive anymore. I thought this would be a good opportunity to show you my worst aquarium and the things that I'm going to do to get it back on track into a healthy and thriving ecosystem. My long-term vision for this aquarium is to set it up as a botanical method aquarium with live plants and either a trio or pair of sparkling gourami, or maybe I'll get a domestic betta or maybe an embellis, because it's been a while since I've had a classic first timers aquarium fish. And I think that this Fluval Flex 9-gallon would be the optimal setup for fish like that. I plan on putting in some aquarium snails as well, maybe some Amano shrimp, and replacing whatever plants in here have not survived the past 6 months of my neglect. I have 12 botanical method blackwater or biotope aquariums set up in my ecosystem garage right now, and disease prevention is really important to me because I have some very special cochina bettas that I'm breeding, as well as Betta albimarginata, and I want to make sure that I don't cross-contaminate equipment. So all of my RODI water is kept in blue buckets, and all of my wastewater is kept in white buckets. Each of my aquariums also gets its own glass cleaning magnets. I don't know that I've ever actually lifted off the top of this aquarium since I set it up over 6 months ago. There is just a little port here in the top of the tank that I've been using to top up the water. As you can see and hear, the water level in here is quite low. If you hear some frogs calling, those are my Ranitomea imitator Virideros. I've had them set up in a bioactive enclosure, and I'll be doing a vivarium tour on them in the next couple of weeks. This algae is brought to you in part by 6 months of poor mental health. This 9-gallon aquarium was originally set up as part of a build video on how to set up and establish a botanical method aquarium, and once I have it looking spick and span again, I will continue that build video. Oh hey, look, there are some cryptocorynes that are still alive underneath this cyano. I think this was a little clump boost. We'll see what's left. None of the swords that not swords, sorry, Java ferns that I put in the back look to be alive anymore, and I did add some bulbitis. That's not in here anymore. I had an Anubias coffeefolia. It looks like that melted, but there are some Anubias nana petite that are right up here in the Borneo Rasamala wood, so those should make a full recovery once we siphon off the algae from their surface. Can confirm some of the cryptocorynes are still alive. I'm really curious to see if the Bucephalandra under this mat of algae and cyano is in fact still alive. I didn't realize how much shame I held in this aquarium, but as someone who makes a lot of social media content, having a tank that got to this state is kind of embarrassing, like how much that was really weighing on me and affecting my mental state. I'm gonna get in here and start siphoning out all of this algae. Look at this, this is hilarious. We have some kind of moss or algae growing epiphytically on this Borneo Rasamala wood out of the water. Oh, no way. There is some of the Java ferns in the back still growing. That's cool. Those will make a comeback. Those are very resilient plants. All right, now, some of you might be asking, Ben, why the heck are you siphoning out cyanobacteria, detritus, different algae? I thought that was a whole big component of having a fully functioning ecosystem in a botanical method aquarium. Well, the wonderful thing about a botanical method aquarium is you are trying to foster a fully functioning ecosystem with all layers of the food chain fully present. However, that shouldn't come at the expense of you being able to see into your aquarium, because at the end of the day, you are having the aquarium for you, but the botanical method aquarium is largely based on adapting that to better care for your fish. And I don't believe that the state that I let this tank get into would be very beneficial to any fish that I would add in here. I don't know if we'll be able to see this just yet, but right back there, this leaf, that is one of the Bulbitis hutylodii African water ferns that I added when I initially set up this ecosystem, and I was pretty sure that all of it died, but there is a live leaf back there, which means that plant will eventually make a comeback. I'm gonna go in with the trusty paper towel and give that front pane a nice little scrub down. When you do this, just make sure you're using unscented paper towels with nothing applied to them. One of the main limiters with the tank being so low to the ground is I can't siphon out 100% of the water, but that's okay. I got a little bit more than 50% out, and we're gonna go ahead and fill the tank up with some freshly made RODI water and then prepare some botanicals to add back into our botanical method aquarium. I'm not going to fill it up all the way to, I like to go just above this black diffusing line on the Fluval tanks. We're going to add in some melastoma roots and other botanicals. I'm going to have my arm in there. We're going to be positioning leaves and such, and I don't want to overflow the tank. So we'll go ahead and stop the siphon now.
Oh yeah, this looks much better.
There are little bits of cyanobacteria still growing in places, but I'm going to be adding in a biological chemical into this tank. I've noticed no detriment to the microfauna, which is a huge part of the botanical method aquarium. Go ahead and add in that additive right now. There is a threshold of cyano always present in my aquariums. I just like to use this when I get to, how this tank looked, because ultimately I noticed that it doesn't really look as natural as what I'm going for in my botanical method aquariums. If I was going for a true maybe biotope aquarium and the habitat that I was replicating was covered in cyano in the wild, then I would let it go and cultivate that cyano in a different way. Probably every 2 months is about the interval that I'm doing this at. And with that, the next step in fixing this ecosystem is adding in the melastoma roots that I want, as well as some smaller leaf litter to put in between these twigs and rocks and cryptocrines and other plants to make this look more natural. Melastoma roots are a pretty cool and unique botanical from Indonesia, and I want to grab a couple pieces that kind of resemble the look of little stumps that I can shove into the back of that aquarium. So I think I'm going to go with like a piece like this. We'll put that in one corner. Let's see, dig through here, find another piece. That one looks pretty good as well. Here we go, this one might be good. A little bit less tangled, can put it in the corner. The roots will soften when we boil them. The boiling of this is really just gonna be to help it to sink. Also want to use a relatively small leaf to help preserve the scale of the 9-gallon Fluval Flex. So I'm gonna use Texas live oak, as well as willow live oak and shingles live oak, blend those together and scatter them about the base of the ecosystem. Let's kind of arrange these in this tank in a way that looks somewhat natural, provides natural hiding places for the fish that are eventually going to go in here, and then we'll sprinkle in some leaf litter and give it the finishing touches it needs. This piece of melastoma is a little bit rounder than the others, so I think it's going to do a good job in the middle. That is a massive melastoma root tangle. And the roots right now are looking a little golden yellow, but as they condition into the water, they are going to turn darker as all those different fibers in the melastoma root get fully saturated. They get encrusted with biofilms, maybe a tiny bit of algae that we decide to leave in place. It's gonna get really natural looking. Now, I do want to point out that because there are no fish in this aquarium, we don't have to worry about how many botanicals we are adding into the ecosystem right now. There's going to be a massive biofilm that happens, a bacterial bloom and die off, and that's okay because there's no fish in here. If there were fish in here, I would probably have only added in one melastoma root and a small handful of live oak, smaller than what I just added in. But because there's no fish, we can add as much as we want. Let's go ahead and add in the rest of these. The goal here is to just push the leaf litter down beneath some of these melastoma roots. I want to uncover any of the plants that I have growing in here. I don't like the way that this leaf looks, so we're going to put it in the back. Here's a couple expectations over the next couple of days. We added in a whole bunch of leaf litter and wood into this ecosystem, and that is fuel for the bacteria and fungi that are already present in this aquarium. So we're gonna get a ton of biofilm growth on everything. We're gonna get a whole bunch of smaller bacterial populations and fungal growths on everything. The water right now is a little bit white and hazy, and that's just because we've disturbed so much of the substrate. But I have a feeling that the water is going to continue to stay hazy because we're going to get a beneficial bacterial bloom in the water. Now, because there's no fish or shrimp in here, I'm not worried. We have some snails, the little one right here on the glass. Those are all going to be totally fine. We are also going to experience the continued release of tannins from all of the leaf litter from those oak species we used. So the water is going to get more tinted. I anticipate the melastoma roots are also going to release some more tannins as well. I don't really anticipate the melastoma getting dislodged and floating up to the surface. I have it pretty wedged in between the existing wood and rocks that were in this botanical method aquarium, so I think we should be good to go. I'm going to let this tank sit and begin to establish until I notice the presence of those biofilms forming, and then we'll check back in and document the bloom and the goo phase of this aquarium. At the beginning of the video, I did tease the fish that I was going to be adding into this botanical method aquarium. Believe it or not, in my ecosystem garage, I don't actually have any standard domestic male betta fish. So I thought it would be a good idea to get a plakat betta and put it into this Fluval Flex 9-gallon aquarium. So as you all know, if you follow me on TikTok or Instagram, I get all of my domestic bettas from ENW Bettas. Moretta is just down in Corvallis, Oregon. She has a brick and mortar store there, so I got one of her male placots that she had listed on her website, as well as a curated betta fish plant pack. And I didn't know that she was going to do this, but she threw in some holographic stickers and an art print of this exact fish, which I think is pretty cool because I'll be able to display that around the ecosystem garage. I would like to recap a little bit of the timeline here because there's some pretty important steps that have happened throughout this video before I went in and added in this male betta fish. We added in leaves and seed pods into this ecosystem. The bacterial goo phase started right around day number 3. At day 6, it was in full force. The melastoma roots were entirely encapsulated in a biofilm, and a biofilm is just an extracellular matrix of polysaccharides, which is released by the bacteria. They're consuming compounds on the surface of the botanicals. Totally natural, don't panic. A lot of mainstream aquarium resources on the internet are going to tell you that you should go in with a toothbrush or siphon and suck those out, but if you do, they're just going to come right back, so it's best to let them go through their full conditioning process, and once they have fully disappeared, then you're ready to add life into the aquarium. I noticed in this unique aquarium, and it's different in every single one, that the biofilm goo phase stopped occurring around day number 13. And I went in with my API test kit, tested ammonia, nitrites, and nitrates, and we were at zeros across the board, which means we have a fully cycled aquarium, and the plants that were already in the aquarium were doing a really good job of absorbing the excess nitrates in the water column. So all in all, I waited 3 weeks before I went and added in the snails, and then I waited an additional week before I added in Enzo, this male placate betta fish. Cleaning a botanical method aquarium like this is pretty simple. I'm going to make sure that I just exchange 20% of the water about every 2 weeks. I use that algae scraper to clean that front panel of glass. Sometimes I use it on the side panels, but not frequently because I do want to provide a surface for the snails and the limpets to have an algae source, a food source to go and graze on. I will be posting a video later on the channel that explains the ins and outs of how we would do a proper servicing and cleaning of these systems. I won't cover it all in this video because it would add another 20 minutes onto this, but I am in the process of documenting all of the footage needed to compile an in-depth tutorial for this. The following clips I've captured on February 3rd, so this whole aquarium with Enzo has been set up for about 3 months now. We've been going through the ups and downs of algae growth and botanical conditioning. The tank did experience a second biofilm bloom, but totally natural. I just let it run its course, and once it was done, I went in and did a 20% water change. All of these slow-growing Anubias and cryptocorynes and buces are starting to grow pretty quick. I'm actually quite surprised at how many new leaves I'm experiencing on a lot of these plants. And here's one of those little tiny snails that I added into the aquarium earlier on in this video. I appreciate you sticking around for the whole duration of this video. It feels really good to have this ecosystem back on track with a colorful betta fish swimming around. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section down below. Make sure to give this video a like. And if you're not following the channel already, I highly suggest you do. We're going to have really great content coming out for the rest of the year. I will be doing a tutorial on how I set up the South American biotope inspired aquarium as well as the Indonesian biotope inspired aquarium, and then we are going to be releasing a Q&A series called Beneath the Leaves, which I'm going to be uploading every other Friday, compiling all of the questions that you have across my Instagram, TikTok, as well as all my other social channels. So thanks for tuning in, and I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next episode.